If your liver is sluggish, everything else slows down. It takes longer for sugar to enter the cells. Boom, insulin resistance. Boom, more inflammation. You feel tired all of the time, no matter what. When your liver is supported, everything from your hormones, your digestion, your skin, your energy, your ability to be able to burn fat is going to work so much better. Hello, and welcome back to the Metabolism and Menopause podcast, where we help you understand this new body of yours. Now that you've gone through some of those hormonal changes, or maybe you're past menopause now, your old fat loss strategies just aren't cutting it anymore. So it's time to learn how to work with your body and not against it, so you can unlock that fat burning, your energy, and confidence again. So today we have a topic that is usually very overlooked. I am here with three of my incredible coaches, but we know that this one thing can really be the thing that is missing in your health, your ability to be able to lose weight, why you are struggling so much, and it is your liver. And now when most people think of liver health, they think of alcohol, they think of some detox teas, maybe they, one time had to Google, what does the liver even do, right? But the truth is your liver is one of the hardest working organs in your entire body. It is responsible for processing hormones, metabolizing fats, balancing your blood sugar, clearing out toxins, even impacting how much energy you feel every day. And if it's sluggish or it's overburdened, it's overworking, you're probably going to start experiencing symptoms like brain fog, low energy, hormonal imbalances, weight loss plateaus, skin issues, without ever realizing that your liver is behind the scenes trying to help you, but we're not doing it any favors. And this is something that we work on with every single woman who comes in our program, because we know how much it impacts our ability to be able to lose weight, to feel good, and all of the things. So today we are going to explore, what does your liver even actually do? We know it's there. We know it's big. We don't know what it does. The subtle signs that it's calling for support, that we maybe need to start nurturing it a little bit more. And the simple, effective steps that you can take to start optimizing that function without doing some crazy extreme cleanse, taking some weird tea things. You're going to learn that doesn't really work. And because when your liver thrives, everything else is going to be significantly easier. This is something that I've had to work on in my personal health and fitness journey, because she needs some help. We've gone through some stuff, and my liver needs some help. If you've been following along with my hormone journey, my Dutch testing, how all of my progesterone and estrogen and testosterone are in the crapper, and that my androgens are super high and my cortisol is super high, my body is not good at breaking stuff down. It explains a lot. And so we're going to get right into it. So Hannah, I will let you kind of take it away with, the first things about the liver that we should know.
Yeah, so first and foremost, your liver is really your body's MVP organ, and the liver plays a critical role in our metabolism, our energy, and also fat loss. So think of your liver as a filter, a factory, and a storage unit, all in one. So here is how the liver's health is connected to our metabolism and fat loss. First, we have hormone metabolism and balance. So the liver metabolizes or breaks down hormones like estrogen, insulin, cortisol, and thyroid hormones. Impaired detoxification can lead to estrogen dominance, poor thyroid conversion, T4 to T3, or insulin resistance. And all of this can slow down our metabolism and make fat loss much harder. Then we also have number 2, which is bile regulation and fat digestion. So the liver produces bile, which is essential for digesting and absorbing dietary fats and fat-soluble vitamins, which are vitamins A, D, E, and K. Sluggish bile flow can lead to poor fat digestion, which can lead to bloating, and then even nutrient deficiencies, which all indirectly affect metabolism and energy production as well. Number 3, the liver builds important proteins. The liver makes proteins that help clot your blood when you get a cut, carry nutrients and hormones through your bloodstream, and then fight off infections as part of your immune system. And number 4, we have blood sugar regulation. The liver helps maintain stable blood sugar by storing and releasing glucose as the body needs it. And a burdened liver may contribute to glucose instability, can contribute to cravings, and even fat storage, especially around our abdomen.
So before Chelsea goes through and lists even more things, I want to summarize a few things that I really want to kind of hit home for you guys. So when we talk about them later, you're like, oh, this is what she was talking about. The liver and hormone balance. We know that we struggle with estrogen dominance in the beginning portion of perimenopause. That first stage 1, stage 2, progesterone will drop first. Estrogen dominance is going to become a thing because our progesterone levels are low. If our liver is struggling, which it typically does in this time of our life, we're going to see more intense symptoms of estrogen dominance. Blood sugar control, we know when our hormones start to decline, that becomes an issue. Liver actually plays a massive role in this, which is why we also have to look here. We know that if insulin's really high, we're going to go into that fat storing pathway, making it very hard to lose weight. We see cortisol. If you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, or if you've been, following along on social media, cortisol is a really big issue. If our liver is not doing well, like me right now, my cortisol, my body's not good at breaking it down. I'm very good at producing it. So my body needs to catch up. Liver is going to help support that. And then thyroid function, we know that that's such a massive issue during perimenopause and menopause, where you could have normal TSH levels. You could have, some labs that are okay, but we're seeing that if you are struggling with liver health, if we're struggling with stress, we don't see that conversion of T4 to T3 that we need so that our body can use the thyroid hormones. So you could have normal levels of TSH and we're struggling here. All of those things linked with not being able to digest foods super well because of bile production, not being able to, build protein, maintain our muscle mass, the blood sugar regulation, all of those things paired with the things already happening in perimenopause and menopause really get amplified. And so the liver, this is why we can't not address the liver, because if the liver is not working properly, you are going to feel like you are doing everything right and you're still struggling with all of these other things that we just listed off. And this is just 4. Chelsea's going to go into more, but I just want to hit home for you guys that the liver plays a massive role in supporting the things that we are going to struggle with as our hormones start to decline, and why you might be putting in so much effort and feeling like you're not getting anywhere. Okay, Chelsea, you're good to go.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say, when I was in school, when I went back to school for nutrition, I literally had to write an entire essay on all of the roles that our liver performs in our body, because it is such an integral part of our entire system and how our body functions. So we've got a few more to go through in terms of what the liver can do. The first one is that it is really, really important for detoxification of metabolic waste. So our liver filters out toxins, drugs, and byproducts of metabolism. If our detox pathways, especially phase 1 and phase 2, which we are going to explain in more detail in a few minutes, are sluggish, toxins may accumulate and be stored in fat cells, making fat loss more difficult, as the body resists releasing toxins stored in fat. Our energy production is also greatly influenced by our liver function. So the liver is involved in converting nutrients into energy, particularly through gluconeogenesis, so the production of glucose from our liver, and then ketone production. So that's our body using fats as energy as well. A healthy liver supports better energy balance, which can improve motivation motivation for physical activity and support weight management. And then finally, and this is not even a full, complete list of everything that the liver does, but the final one that we're going to cover today is inflammation control. We know that low-grade inflammation in our body can affect so many things, especially our ability to burn fat. If we are having poor liver function because of that chronic low-grade inflammation, or potentially causing low-grade inflammation in our body, this is going to impair metabolic function. It's going to increase our cortisol because, as Steph was saying, we're not able to clear it out as effectively as we want to. And then that's also going to promote that fat storage, particularly that visceral fat, which is that fat that we have sitting around our organs that is metabolically active.
And so with those 5 things, detoxification is huge. As Chelsea said, toxins will be stored in fat cells because your body wants to protect you from those toxins. It doesn't want the toxins attacking our organs and breaking it down, it's going to get stored in fat cells. When it does that, the structure of the fat cells actually change, making it harder to break down already than it was before. But then also, when you're losing weight, you might not feel super great. And so this is what we see a lot with women who are on GLPs. If it's the rate of fat loss is too quick without addressing this first, this is where people start feeling really sick. They're really nauseous. They're having digestive issues. This is a really big part of it. And so we always want to make sure, if we are working with people who are wanting to do that or are on those GLPs, to maximize results, to make sure that you are healthy and not potentially opening up toxins and harming the rest of your body, right? And then you're feeling poorly. There's a right way to do things. And so that's something that we really want to like hit home for you as well. And then when we're looking at the energy production, like, we're always tired, right? We're struggling with blood sugar. We're struggling falling asleep, even though we're exhausted. We wake up at 2 to 3 a.m. You wake up, you're still tired, right? This is a big part of this. And also, when we're looking at the gluconeogenesis and ketone production, we want to be able to do both. You don't want to be in ketosis all the time. You don't want to be in gluconeogenesis all the time. A healthy metabolism, a body that's good at burning energy, is going to be able to flip between the two. Most of us are not able to do that. And so that's what we also work on with our clients a lot, because if you can't, like, you are always going to struggle. And the inflammation bit, I mean, we did a podcast not that long ago on inflammation. And then again, not that long ago before that, because inflammation is like so key in your ability to be able to lose weight. Inflammation will block your fat burning pathway. Your body will be told, we have enough, let's store, regardless of how little you're eating, regardless of how much you're exercising. And the inflammation gets worse during perimenopause and menopause, when estrogen starts to decline, when we're seeing that imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. And so we're already in a body that's going to favor that blocked fat burning, but favors inflammation, favors blood sugar dysregulation, is going to struggle with detoxification, is going to struggle with your energy, is going to struggle with bile production, is going to struggle with making proteins, right? All the things that we're talking about. So this is why liver health is so important, because it really can be the missing piece that if we fix this, everything starts to function so much easier and more effectively, more efficiently, which is then going to make everything feel better. But also then you're not having to push as hard. Like, I have a client right now, we've been addressing these things, and she's like, I didn't think it was going to feel this easy to be in this part of my journey, because she felt like she had to work so hard to get to where she is now. And now it's been such an easier journey because we've addressed those root causes, right? And so once those are done, it's a lot easier to see the change that you're wanting to see. So, Kariana, let's take away with detoxification, because this is something everyone really should understand, and how a detox tea is not going to address all these issues.
Yeah, so let's touch first on detoxification and regulation of these substances in the body, as this can be, honestly, a huge factor that we miss, and is a big part of how the body can prevent our fat burning pathways from actually being able to turn on. So how does the liver actually do this when it comes to detoxification and regulating those levels of, substances or harmful substances in the body? And the first thing to understand is it actually goes through two different phases. Now, your liver is like a processing plant for toxins, hormones, and chemicals that your body doesn't either need anymore or wants to get rid of, that we've maybe absorbed or consumed within our regular lifestyle or something like that. So again, two phases. We have phase 1 and we have phase 2. Phase 1 is like the liver's kind of like sorting room. So it takes these harmful substances and it actually breaks them down into smaller parts so that we actually can package them up a little bit easier for this detoxification and getting rid of these things. But at this point, they can actually become more reactive or more irritating in the body. So this is where phase 2 comes in and is so important, and why we always stress in our coaching, we want to be working on both phases kind of at the same time. Because once those substances or chemicals or harmful substances are broken down into those smaller parts, then we need to actually get rid of them. And so phase 2 is the actual packaging department. And this is where your liver will actually bring in other nutrients and attach them to these smaller pieces, these more harmful substances that we may have created in phase 1, almost like kind of adding a shipping label to them. And this usually makes them water soluble, and it makes them safe for your body to eliminate them through other detoxification organs like our urine or our stool, through our gut or through our kidneys. Even sometimes we can detoxify them through sweat or through our lungs or things like that. Now, if phase 1 is working, that's great. But if phase 2 is not working, or if it's a little bit slower, then these reactive substances that we've now created in phase 1 can actually build up and lead to these symptoms that we sometimes see, like fatigue, hormone imbalances, low-grade inflammation, skin issues. So it's really important to understand that both phases need to actually be working properly and working together in order to keep your system clear, keep everything balanced, keep everything healthy, and then not overload our other detoxification organs because the liver is not really doing the job that it should to the fullest capacity that it can with both of these phases.
And so like when we're talking about phase 1 and phase 2, so phase 1 is like breaking down the toxins and making it so that they would be able to then be able to mix with water, right? And so when they aren't mixed with water, now those are like quite harmful to our body, right? And so phase 2 is where we then do mix it with water and our body can get rid of it. So a lot of people will only focus on phase 1 with like certain supplements and stuff when really the problem is phase 2. Like it's so much more, it's not as simple as a tea, right? Like it just isn't going to help you with that. And you need to realize too, like the part that helps them become water soluble so that our body can get rid of them requires protein. So if you're eating a low protein diet, you're really going to struggle here. And this is why it's not just about like, energy and blood sugar and muscle. Like it's actually to protect your body and help with detoxification too. But then also our body has to be able to get rid of them. If you're not pooping every day, we have problems. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not constipated. How often do you go to the bathroom? Oh, I go like every 3 days. That's constipation. We want to be going like a couple times a day. So we need to be aware that if we aren't eliminating every day and we are dehydrated, we're just reabsorbing those things and then they become harmful again. And that's more burden on our liver because it has to process stuff multiple times. That's not effective and that's not helpful. And so with this sluggish liver, it can keep you in that fat storing state where we're constantly saying the signal, we have enough, let's store. We have enough, let's store. Even though you're doing everything right. And this is how it happens. One is through chronic high insulin or glucose. When we have an impaired liver regulation, it's going to overstimulate that growth and storage pathway. If we have low detox capacity, it's going to lead up to a buildup of excess nutrients or hormones that are, again, going to overstimulate that storing pathway. We have a lack of autophagy when we are in this chronic overstimulation of that storage pathway. What we see is that there's an accumulation of these damaged cells, and these damaged cells are going to create metabolic dysfunction by increasing inflammation. It's going to make it so that things get replicated that shouldn't be replicating. This is where you can see someone who is like, quote unquote, healthy, but they end up with things like a cancer diagnosis, right? Because those dead cells never get cleaned up because they aren't able to get into that fat burning state because of their liver isn't able to help them through this whole process, right? And so we don't want to see this like preferential fat storage because of that inflammation, that insulin resistance, which are two huge things that already happen as our hormones start to fluctuate once we hit 35, right? It happens so much earlier than people think. Midlife is 40. It's not 50. The average woman lives to about 81. Midlife is 40. Perimenopause can start as early as 35. And so this is where you need to understand we need to be ahead of the game with this stuff. Otherwise, it does make it harder when our hormones aren't in the place that we want them to be. And it's really hard to make progress when these things under the surface are not working. So Hannah, why don't you go into how it blocks the fat burning state specifically?
Yeah, so first, our burning pathways get blocked from high insulin from blood sugar instability, and this is due to poor liver glucose regulation, which is therefore going to suppress that fat burning pathway. Inflammation and oxidative stress, which are very common with a sluggish liver and poor detox, are also therefore going to inhibit that fat burning signaling and making it very hard, if not impossible, for your body to turn into that fat burning state. And then some mitochondrial dysfunction in liver cells is going to reduce ATP turnover, which also lowers the activation of our fat burning pathway. And then having excess estrogen or toxins, which we have talked about here a few times already, if we have poor detox capacity, and if we have signs of estrogen dominance, that excess estrogen and toxins that are not getting cleared out properly can disrupt our fat burning pathways as well. And then the result of this is that we have less fat burning, more fat storage, and a lower metabolic rate.
So basically, like if your liver is sluggish, if your liver is struggling, everything else slows down. It takes longer for sugar to enter the cells, boom, insulin resistance. It takes longer for energy to enter the cells, boom, more inflammation. It takes longer for, cells to actually fill up with energy, boom, you feel tired all of the time, no matter what, right? So this is where everything starts to slow down. Hormone production starts to slow down. Our stress response can get elevated a lot quicker. It takes longer for that stress response to come down. So like, maybe you get startled and it takes you a long time to calm down afterwards, whereas before it'd be like, oh, like I'm over it right away. And it just seems to like, things just shake you and you stay kind of shaken for a longer time. When something kind of gets under your skin and now you're just like, oh, it just like throws off my whole day. I can't get it like out of it. Like these are all like everything starts to slow down. And so these are the things that we kind of start to see, and these already happening in perimenopause and menopause. So again, we need to support the liver so much. This is one of the pillars in our program where we have to get the liver working properly. Otherwise, it is going to be really, really freaking hard.
All right, so if we haven't drilled this home enough for you yet, the liver is the metabolic powerhouse in our body. But we now also know that it can become overburdened by the cumulative effects of our diet, our lifestyle, our environment, and internal imbalances. When this happens, our detox is going to slow down, our metabolism is going to suffer, and then that fat loss that we're all looking for is going to become so much harder.
So we're going to dive into the main things that can overwhelm liver detox and metabolic capacity. The first one that we're going to talk about is blood sugar imbalance and high insulin. When we have chronically high blood sugar, it increases the amount of fat in our liver, and that is going to impair our insulin sensitivity. So how well that glucose is able to get into our cells. High insulin inhibits fat burning and contributes to a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Sometimes you can hear this referred to as NAFLD. And if no action is taken to reverse this or to support your liver, this can lead to something called non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, or it's sometimes referred to as NASH. What's interesting, and one of the things that we're seeing more and more frequently, is that 1 in 4 people on our planet have some form of NAFLD or NASH. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is something you should care about because it is only the beginning of what can transform into metabolic disorders like insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. We know that metabolic disorders leave us at much higher risk for developing things like cancers, cardiovascular diseases, and cognitive dysfunction or diseases like Alzheimer's. So we want to be supporting our liver in the best way that we can. Now, what are some of the things that can contribute to issues with blood sugar imbalance and high insulin? Excess, and I'm using the word excess here, so pay attention to that. Excess refined carbs and sugars. So this is your things like your sodas, your candies, your baked goods, your crackers, your cereals. Frequent snacking or overeating. So irregular and inconsistent timing of meals. We want to be spacing out our meals by 3 to 4 to maybe even 5 hours, depending on how big your meals are. We do not want to be eating every 30 minutes or every 2 hours. We need to let our digestive system have that time to complete its entire process before we introduce foods again. One of the other things that we often see as a common cause of this is a lack of fiber or protein. So in that standard American diet where we're getting very little protein and very little fiber, that can be a huge contributor to our blood sugar imbalance and high insulin. Changes in estrogen levels during perimenopause are also going to contribute to our body's sensitivity to insulin. Now, all of this to say, this does not mean that we are avoiding carbs. Carbs are incredibly important, and our liver actually utilizes carbs to perform so many of these functions that we've already talked about. And when we talk about fiber, we are talking about fiber from real foods, like our fruits, our vegetables, our whole grains, our legumes. We are not talking about the processed fibers that are found in things like our protein bars and our keto wraps.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 other causes or contributors to our liver not necessarily working properly or getting a little bit slowed down or a little bit burdened. The first one I want to talk about is alcohol. And we mention alcohol a lot on this podcast. If you've listened to a couple episodes, you know that alcohol is not necessarily the best thing for us, especially as we get older or we have high levels of stress or our body's not really working properly for us. And we have these inflammatory issues that we want to be looking at. So alcohol is, and we have to remember, a toxin. And so it's prioritized in the liver for detoxification basically right away as soon as you drink it. And this diverts resources from other detoxification pathways like estrogen or other toxin clearance in order to prioritize alcohol being detoxed because it is such a high level neurotoxin in the body. It is not great for us, and it really burdens the liver if we are drinking even 1 drink, 2 drink, 3 drinks a week. That can really overburden a liver that's not necessarily working properly already. It also does something called increased oxidative stress. And so oxidative stress is basically a function in the body where at the cellular level, we get stress. So we have antioxidants in the body that help us actually relieve oxidative stress. Unfortunately, we actually deplete these antioxidants by drinking alcohol because alcohol does deplete these antioxidants that help us with oxidative stress, which in turn increases this oxidative stress in our cells. We talk, Steph, you talk about mitochondria a lot. Those mitochondria aren't able to work properly in order to help us, fight those bad toxins or substances in our body. And this can actually cause fat accumulation in the liver over time. And again, it will really burden the liver and prevent the liver from being able to do its regular job outside of us drinking alcohol, like properly detoxifying and, repackaging all of these other hormones and toxic substances that we get in regular life, even outside of alcohol. The other one I wanted to talk about is environmental toxins and xenoestrogens. This can be a real burden for some people if we do have overexposure to these compounds in products. So the liver does have to detoxify chemicals found in things like plastics and pesticides. So, you've heard of BPAs. We have a lot of BPA-free things now. Pesticides, fragrances, personal care products, even household cleaners. If we use a large accumulation of these things around us and our body absorbs all of these things, our liver can get overburdened by these chemicals found in all of these products. And xenoestrogens are one of these compounds that we tend to see. So you can find them in even things like store receipts. If you're handling store receipts a lot, those can have xenoestrogens in them. And these xenoestrogens can actually mimic hormones. However, it will increase the liver's hormonal detoxification burden. So we get a higher burden on the liver when our body has to try to detoxify all these chemicals that are found in a large amount of things. So remember, accumulation is the key here. A toxin is determined by the dose and not necessarily by the product itself. But we do have to remember that things that have more harmful chemicals will have a much smaller dose needed in order to create a burden than those things that maybe aren't so harmful. And so we do have to remember that. The other one that I wanted to mention are medications, because I think we forget about this because medications are here to help us, right? And so many medications are metabolized by phase 1 detox enzymes. So remember that phase 1 is where we break that medication down into smaller pieces so that we can repackage them. And this will generate what we call those intermediates, those smaller pieces that do require that phase 2 clearance. So with that phase 2 clearance, remember, we are clearing everything out of the body. We make it water soluble. You mix it with water so it's not as harmful anymore. If this phase 2 is sluggish or we don't have enough nutrients to help with phase 2 detoxification, then that phase 1 that breaks down those medications into potentially more harmful substances can start to accumulate. And so all of a sudden we have these side effects of this medication if we are taking too much. So common culprits of this accumulation from medications include things like acetaminophen. That is a very commonly known liver burden. So if you overtake things like Tylenol, that can actually have an effect on the liver, especially if that phase 2 detox is not working properly. Hormonal birth control is actually one that we oversee a lot, but that is something that needs to be broken down through phase 1 and phase 2 detox of the body. Statins, so your cholesterol medication, any kind of anti-inflammatory will also go through the liver. So we're looking at, things like Advil, Midol, all of those fun ones. And then antibiotics actually surprisingly also do have to go through the liver. And so if we are taking too many of those antibiotics or we're taking it too often, not only can that create antibiotic resistance in our body and a microbiome that's not great, but it also creates that higher burden in the liver where it can't actually do the job it needs to do.
And like, I know a lot of you guys are probably like, oh crap, I take Tylenol all the time. Probably not a great thing to do. However, you have to think of all the other things that also burden your liver that we've talked about so far, and we're going to touch on some more. So the xenoestrogens, the plastics exposure, right? The alcohol, the types of foods that we're eating, right? These are all things that are going to impact your liver. So we have to like decrease exposure in whatever areas we can, trying to improve, you know, each category kind of thing. But we're not done yet. There's some more before we get into the solutions here. So the next one is nutrient deficiencies. Detox requires amino acids. Amino acids are protein. If you do not eat enough protein, you do not have enough amino acids. If you do not have enough amino acids, you literally cannot detox. You're going to see more inflammation, more blood sugar issues. We're going to see more of the symptoms that you're experiencing, the inability to lose weight. It's not just muscle. Protein is required for our liver to be able to detox. We also have B vitamins. You know, I recommend B vitamins to literally everyone. A vitamin B50 is great because we know that birth control is going to tank that for you. Stress is going to tank that for you. It's important for hormone regulation and detoxification. Magnesium. You know, we've talked about that one a lot. There's a reason why they're in our supplement guide. Zinc, selenium, other antioxidants like glutathione and vitamin C. It is incredibly important that we are getting enough of this through our diet, supplementing where necessary. Otherwise, we can like literally starve out our detox enzymes and slow down your metabolism. Remember, if liver slows down, everything slows down, including your ability to burn fat. So we need to make sure your liver is working properly. This does not mean that you are only getting those nutrients from supplements. You are getting them from food. If you're getting it from protein powders and from keto bars and low carb wraps and the high protein cookies and whatever else we're buying, that's going to drive up your inflammation, right? We just talked about this in a podcast not that long ago, which is going to have more burden on the liver. So we have to be aware of where these nutrients are coming from to get the benefit. Otherwise, you could be getting all the things, right? But if you're getting them in the wrong way, it's not going to be beneficial for you. The next one, surprise, surprise, my favorite topic is cortisol and chronic stress. Cortisol is going to increase your blood sugars even if you are not eating, even if you are fasting, even if you are eating a low carb diet, does not matter. If you are stressed, body goes, I need more energy, increases sugar to your bloodstream. We are going to see that increase in cortisol is also going to increase your inflammation. Those are both massive stressors to our liver. Chronic stress also disrupts sleep and circadian rhythms. They impair your liver regeneration, your detox timing, which peaks overnight, by the way. But we're also going to see that with the chronic stress, we're going to see a greater production of our reverse T3, which is going to block the active form of our active thyroid hormone. Again, slowing things down even more. So like you have to understand that stress plays a massive role in literally every system in our body. And so if you are constantly go all the time, even if you don't feel stressed, you are having cellular stress. You could be like, oh, the garbage truck comes by every day. It's fine. But if you're not actually cleaning inside your house, right, inside the cell, it doesn't matter if the garbage truck goes by every day and that system's working. That first system is not. And so we have the cellular stress that we need to address. And every time that you are on, right, like right now, my Aura ring is going to tell me that I am stressed out after this because you're on. You are giving a lot of energy. We aren't good at pulling back and we need to. And if we're also cutting calories and cutting carbs and we're fasting and we're eating highly processed foods, the protein bars, the protein pancakes, the keto wraps, the low carb breads, all those things, that's still highly processed, lots of inflammation, lots of stress, not enough calories, all the things. So we need to understand that there's a reason that we do things the way that we do with our clients, because it addresses the root cause to ensure everything's actually working well instead of everything working so slowly. Then we have poor sleep. Liver detox and metabolic repair peaks between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That means inadequate or irregular sleep impairs your liver function, your blood sugar regulation, and your hormonal balance. We know studies show two groups, calorie deficit. I say this all the time. The only difference, one group has good sleep, one group does not. The group with worse sleep loses less fat. They are going to lose more muscle. They struggle with their blood sugars, their energy, and their hunger hormones. And so sleep, again, really important. People don't realize what a big difference this does. An inflammatory diet. like I just mentioned, lots of processed foods, even if they're quote unquote health foods, they are not that healthy. We just did a podcast on that not that long ago. Industrial seed oils like canola, soybeans, trans fat, those all increase inflammation, oxidative stress, and fatty liver risk. And then we have gut imbalances. Leaky gut, SIBO, dysbiosis, they all increase endotoxins that are going to enter our bloodstream and burden the liver because things can pass through the gut lining that are not supposed to pass through the gut lining instead of just being literally peed or pooped out. Now it passes to the liver. That's an extra burden on our liver now. And that again slows everything down. And the gut bacteria is also going to play a very big role in estrogen recycling, which ties all back to liver load. We know that as estrogen declines, also, we're going to see our gut microbiome changes. This is why we need to be so adamant on getting fiber from natural food sources, being hydrated enough, having variety in our diet, eating the same thing for months, not good for our gut health. We need to have variety. And so next I want to let Hannah talk about methylation, because this is something we hear a lot about from clients. We see it on Dutch tests a ton. So Hannah, I will let you take it away with methylation and detox pathways.
Yeah, so this is something that can, come from the way that you are born, from genetics, or these genetic variations that we can get can come from our environment and just like the way that we live as well. Specific genetic variations that can impact methylation and detox pathway and create these impairments are things like MTHFR, COMT, or GST polymorphisms. And if phase 1 and phase 2 detox pathways are not in balance, the liver is going to become overwhelmed by these reactive intermediates, which we've mentioned a couple of times. So these materials essentially just get stuck in this middle ground. And if they are not taken care of and cleared out or neutralized, they create a lot of significant cellular damage, which is therefore going to create even more methylation and detox pathway impairments.
So before Hannah dives deeper into the methylation aspect of stuff, I want to just summarize the 10 things that impact your liver. We're going to go deeper into the MTHFR, the methylation issues, and then we're going to go into the solutions for you, because it's good to, we need to understand what's happening in our body, but then what do we do, right? Because now we're like, oh yeah, this is probably me. So the 10 things that we talked about is blood sugar imbalances and high insulin. So this is not having enough protein in your diet. This is eating too consistently throughout the day. We're not spreading out our meals enough. We're having highly processed foods, right? We're having potato chips instead of potatoes, right? That's the difference that we're trying to put there. So blood sugar control. Number 2, alcohol. Big one. Quickest way to support your liver, unfortunately, is going to be to stop that, and then everything will speed up in your body, right? Because otherwise our body's just focusing on alcohol. Toxin and estrogen exposure, different kinds of medication, nutrient deficiencies, stress, poor sleep, inflammatory diets, gut imbalances, and our methylation and detox pathway impairments. So those are 10 really big things, which you actually have so much control over, which is good. You shouldn't be panicked. No, this is something that we can actually address in not crazy protocols. It doesn't have to be this crazy, fancy, extreme thing. There are very simple steps that you can take. So I'll let Hannah take it away with the methylation piece, just because we get a lot of questions on that and we see it so much in Dutch testing. And then we're going to go into what can you do, lifestyle wise, nutrition wise, all the things. You can pick 2 or 3 things that you were I really suck at that, because the thing that you suck at and you're not doing at all, if you increase just a little bit, you will see way more benefit than trying to squeeze out a little better 5% of what you're already doing well. So Hannah, I will let you take it away.
Yeah, so just a little bit more on these gene mutations that can impact methylation and detox. They're going to make it more difficult for our body to process and methylate or clear out certain things that over time will make things like estrogen dominance or low estrogen, or just an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone more likely to happen, which is something that we see very frequently with clients, especially with Dutch testing. And so they just add to the stress of our liver. And this doesn't have to be like a life sentence of like, well, this is how it is. What happens? What do we do when our liver isn't working well? So things that might happen are that you might feel tired all the time because your liver is going to help turn food into energy. And so if your liver is not working very well, is not doing its job, you can very easily feel like you're drained even after you've gotten a full night of sleep. You may experience your hormones getting out of balance, like I just mentioned, because your liver breaks down used hormones like estrogen. And if our liver is backed up, those hormones can therefore build up, which leads to mood swings, heavy periods, acne, or even weight gain. Your thyroid might slow down, and this is because the liver helps to convert thyroid hormones into their active form. As mentioned earlier, converting that T4 into the T3 so that we can actually use it. And if your liver is sluggish, then your metabolism might also slow down because we know that our thyroid is directly connected to our metabolism. And you could therefore feel cold, tired, or again, experience weight gain. Something else that can happen when our liver isn't working well is that we have trouble digesting fats. So because our liver makes the bile, which is that liquid in our digestive tract that helps to break down fats, if our liver is backed up and bile is therefore not flowing as much as it needs to or flowing very well when we are eating fat-containing foods, you might feel bloated, you might feel gassy, you might have trouble going to the bathroom, or on the other hand, you may end up going to the bathroom way more than you want to because your body has a hard time finding that good balance of like, okay, we're properly digesting and breaking down fats. It's either not doing it, and so you're having a hard time digesting, or it may be dumping a whole bunch of bile and it's sending you straight to the bathroom. We don't want either of those. We got to find that middle ground. Excuse me. Something else is that your skin might break out or look dull. And so when your liver struggles, your body is going to try and push toxins out through your skin instead so that it can still clear things out. And this is something that can lead to rashes, breakouts, or redness on your skin. And unfortunately, we might store fat in our liver as another thing when our liver is backed up. And as we mentioned earlier, this is NAFLD or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And like we mentioned earlier, it affects a really big portion of our population all around the globe. And it happens when there's too much fat that gets built up in our liver. And now you might be thinking you should therefore avoid fats in your diet. But NAFLD actually develops from too much sugar or processed food, not from having too much fat. And non-alcoholic fatty liver disease can make the liver inflamed and therefore slow down everything else that it's supposed to do, creating even more of a burden. If our liver is backed up, we may experience more easily gaining weight than we ever have. And this is because a tired liver is not going to be able to keep up with the processing of sugars and fats, which can therefore make fat burning even more difficult. And lastly, but really not lastly, like there's so many things that can happen, but the last that we're going to mention today is that you can be more sensitive to stress and more sensitive to toxins. So Steph talked about how like stress can slow our liver down, but if our liver is slowed down, we're more sensitive to stress, we're more sensitive to toxins. And this is because our liver, its job is to help clear chemicals from medications, food, and the environment. And if it's sluggish, then our body is more likely to react super strongly to things like maybe perfume, and as Karianna mentioned, alcohol, and of course, stress. So, Chelsea, hit us with the good news here.
Okay, the good news, and there's a lot of it, is that our liver is the most resilient organ that we have in our body. So much so that if you were to donate a portion of your liver to somebody who lost theirs, both of you would have fully functioning and nearly full-size livers in just a couple of months. Now, what's important to remember, and one of the things that we really want to drill home here, is that those teas and those quick fixes are not going to work right away. We need to be looking at full picture. We talked about those 10 things that we have so much control over when it comes to supporting our liver health. Our liver cells, our hepatocytes, they regenerate every 200 to 300 days. So a 1-week liver cleanse is not going to magically fix all of your problems. We need to spend some targeted time really helping your liver here and making sure that we are promoting that healthy liver regeneration. Liver dysfunction, it's not a life sentence. You have so much control over regaining energy, resilience, and even a healthy weight through various choices, which we are now going to dive into.
Okay, so top strategies to support your liver very naturally are all free. So I want you guys to listen to this. Make sure you can put them into practice because, again, we're not gatekeeping. We want to make sure you can take care of yourselves here. These are all things you can do on your own. So the first one is going to be eating cruciferous vegetables daily. So cruciferous vegetables include things like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. And these specific vegetables have specific compounds within them, specific nutrients that help to boost phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. And bonus, it also helps to support estrogen balance and clearance. So that's a really good thing, especially as we get older and we experience hormonal imbalances and high stress. The other thing we want to do is to prioritize high quality protein. So our protein needs go up, not even just from a muscle perspective as we get older and have more stress, but protein and amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein and what your protein is made up of, are actually required for your liver for phase 2 detoxification pathways. Because a lot of the times, phase 2 detoxification will take these amino acids and tag them. And those are the shipping labels that we have for those smaller substances. So prioritizing protein is a really good idea. Make sure it is high quality protein. So I don't want to see you eating protein powders 3 times a day and protein bars and all these protein foods that are, kind of more of that supplemental stuff. Aim for, lean animal products. You're looking at the seafood and the lean meats and lean dairy if you're okay with that. And like plant-based sources of protein, all those whole food protein sources will be such much better quality. You want to add fiber-rich food. So things like flax seeds, chia seeds, oatmeal is my absolute favorite, lentils, leafy greens, vegetables, fruits. Fiber is a really important part of digestive health, but also an important part of liver health because it binds to waste and it actually binds to these packaged like hormones and substances and toxins that our liver sends to our gut and can carry them out through our stool, helps keep us regular, and that helps open up those detox pathways for us. We also want to be including healthy fats. So olive oil, avocado, walnuts, fatty fish, things that are high in omega-3s, omega-9s, those things are so important, not only for inflammation in the body, but your liver actually needs fats to make things like bile. And bile helps us digest and emulsify and eliminate those toxins and those other things in our digestive system that we need to. And drink water. I know we say this a lot, but honestly, drink more water. Probably most of us need to. I know I need to. Drinking water consistently through the day and making sure that our body is hydrated can actually support things like lymph flow, bile production, and just daily detox in general. It helps keep our digestive system more regular. It helps cells just have enough energy and water in them in order to actually function properly. And it gives our liver that hydration that it needs in order to actually, support that phase 1 and phase 2 detox as well. So not only does water help liver, but it also helps with all of our other detoxification organs as well.
Yeah, and you can also add lemon to your water. That's a great add-on. And you can also sip on dandelion tea, green teas. All those things are really great for inflammation, supporting the liver. So if you suck at drinking water like I do, I have a giant water bottle and we're about halfway through today, so I'm pretty proud of myself so far, and I will have a tea later, but all those things help, right? We said to supplement with magnesium, get a magnesium powder, put it with water, boom, that's extra hydration right there. So many ways to help, move the needle. So now lifestyle habits. So those are all pretty simple nutritional stuff, probably things that you've heard before, but this is where people are like, I think I need a fancy XYZ. No, just eat some cruciferous veggies daily. Just have your fiber. Keep it simple. The boring stuff works, but nobody wants to do it. They want to pay for some crazy advanced protocol, which quite frankly sucks and is not sustainable anyways. Okay, so lifestyle habits that will help your liver. Number 1, move your body regularly. Exercise is going to support blood flow. It's going to support lymphatic drainage and insulin sensitivity, which will all help take stress off of your liver. So most of us do like our one workout a day. You need to get some movement in as well. We do this with a challenge with our clients quite regularly where we're trying to do movement snacks. So putting sticky notes up in places where you would typically see them throughout your day. And every time you see them, you do either like 5 squats, 5 lunges, 5 push-ups, something to get some extra movement in. Take a 5 or 10 minute walk here. Do a walking desk for a little bit if you can, those kinds of things, right? Because that movement regularly is really important. The next one is prioritizing your sleep. Your liver does most of its repair work while you're sleeping. If you are not sleeping, it cannot do its job. So we need to make sure that you are actually in bed for like 8 hours, avoiding screens before bedtime. Having that bedtime snack is really helpful to help you fall asleep and stay asleep, stabilize blood sugars through the nighttime, which is also very important for our liver, right? So having a slow digesting carb with some protein or fat, like 30 to 45 minutes before bed, works wonders. I love doing popcorn with like a piece of cheese or a turkey pepperoni stick. Other people like oatmeal with like, some milk, maybe a little bit of protein powder in there. You could do Greek yogurt with some granola. You could do a whole grain piece of toast with some egg or peanut butter. Just something small, nothing too big. That will help you fall asleep because it'll bring cortisol down. Melatonin goes up, your sleepy hormone, which is also a very powerful antioxidant, which will then also support your liver. And that's also going to stabilize your sugars through the night. So you're not waking up at 2 to 3 a.m. anymore. Because usually when we wake up at nighttime, it's because our blood sugar drops and cortisol spikes. And so we need to make sure that we are having that bedtime snack to support us. We want to limit alcohol and ultra processed foods. I know it sucks. It sucks to say, but I don't drink alcohol anymore. And honestly, I don't miss it. My health is more important to me than alcohol. Can it be uncomfortable at first? Sure. But like, if someone's going to make you feel poorly for supporting your health, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, because no one gives you a hard time for not drinking when you're pregnant. So because you're, doing things well for your baby, what about doing things well for you, right? The next thing is supporting digestion and regular bowel movements. So daily elimination, like we talked about, very important for lowering inflammation, supporting our liver, taking that burden off of the liver as well. And then prioritizing rest, recovery, and de-stressing. We know that if you are go all the time, you're not eating enough food, you're not getting enough of those calories, or fasting, we're not eating often enough, or we're eating too often, right? That's a big stress on our body. And we're always on, right? We're dealing with like poor sleep, we're go, we're dealing with deadlines and bosses and friendships and our spouse and our kids, and we're the taxi mom, and we're dealing with grief and trauma and taking care of sick parents. And this time of year, we're probably doing some more traveling. All those things are stress, and stress is going to tax the crap out of your liver. It's going to drive up cortisol. It's going to drive up inflammation, block that fat burning pathway. No matter what you do in terms of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing the workouts, nothing's going to happen from it. So you need to understand how much is too much. You want to stress the body in a way that it like wants to burn calories, but not so much that then it's like pumping the brakes on you, right? So you need to understand what actually is a stress and what that balance is. And it's really hard. Like in coaching, we have to tell women all the time, this is not the time to push. We need to pull back a bit. And it can be scary, right? It's telling me not to work out, telling me to take a break, telling me to, decrease my spin classes, telling me to run a little bit less, telling me to eat a little bit more. It can be really terrifying. It seems so backwards. But the reason that we're doing this is to address the root cause and help your body refine what is too much, what is enough, what is too little. And then we can start building that resiliency. But the harder you push, a lot of the times, the harder your body is going to push back. So those are more lifestyle things. Hannah, what supplements may support liver health? If you're not doing the lifestyle nutrition stuff, the supplements aren't going to do much for you. Let's be honest. So if you're doing all of those things, now Hannah, what can they take?
Yeah, excuse me. So diet and lifestyle are definitely the biggest factors that we want to focus on. But if you are doing most of those, if not all of those, and you're still feeling like I'm experiencing some of these things of a sluggish liver that they're talking about on this podcast, then we can look into supplements. But remember that supplements are supplemental. And we do recommend working with either a nutrition coach or some form of practitioner, getting a Dutch test and or blood work in order to determine what your body actually needs, because supplements are far more impactful if we know what our body needs. you may throw something in that your body doesn't need and it's not going to make a difference, or it might make things worse. So what are some of these supplements? First, we have milk thistle, which is going to support liver cell regeneration and antioxidant protection. Antioxidants, wonderful for our body. We also have NAC, or N-acetylcysteine, and NAC is the precursor to glutathione, our like superpower powerhouse antioxidant in our body, and is also our body's master detoxifier. So if we are taking NAC, it supports more glutathione within our body, which supports more detoxification. And then we also have calcium D-glucarate, and this supplement helps reduce hormone recirculation and also supports estrogen clearance through our GI tract. DIM is something that supports phase 1 estrogen metabolism, but a very important caution here is that while DIM can be helpful for clearing excess estrogen, we need to be very careful using it in perimenopause. And this is because when estrogen levels can be low or fluctuating, we just want to be very aware of it. Using DIM without testing it's possible that it may worsen symptoms like fatigue, hot flashes, or anxiety if estrogen is already low. So DIM is best used when we know that estrogen is high, either through lab testing, like, your blood work, or through a Dutch test. And then we also have a B complex or methylated B vitamins. So you've probably heard us talk about B vitamins so many times. They do so many things within our body and they're so fantastic. But a B complex or methylated B vitamin can support methylation, which is a major key in our phase 2 detox pathway. So remember, these are supplements. They are not the answer. If you are not doing these lifestyle things and you think, oh, I can just add these supplements in, it's not going to work. We have to be doing the lifestyle and the diet things first, and then using the supplements as a way to work in tandem with what we're already doing to help continuously support our liver.
Well, the big thing is I think a lot of people want to try and like improve their liver function without taking away the burden, which doesn't work, right? That's like, I have to shovel so much faster because this hole keeps getting filled up and I'm trying to keep digging it, right? Whereas it would be a lot easier to decrease the amount going in and then just kind of maintain like a decent pace of the shoveling that's more sustainable for your body, right? So that's a really big key factor that people do not pay attention to. So when your liver is supported, everything from your hormones, your digestion, your skin, your energy, your ability to be able to burn fat is going to work so much better. The best place to start is going to be with consistent whole food nutrition, hydration, movement, and rest/stress reduction, right? Supplements can offer some awesome support, but they only work when they are really tailored to your body, right? Because we've seen people come on DIM who should not be on DIM, right? You don't want to be taking, some of those supplements are very potent. So we want to make sure that we are actually giving you what you need instead of just guessing. This is why we utilize Dutch testing with our clients, because it helps us see the big picture with our liver detoxification, create a plan that is going to meet your body where it's at to get you to where you want to be. Because if we're trying to give you a map, but we don't know where your starting point is, that's insane. I give this analogy all the time. If I'm trying to go visit Carriana, but I don't tell my GPS where I am, I just give the location of where she is, I could drive for the rest of my life and literally never get there, right? I could randomly turn right, left. I could be getting closer. I could be getting further away. If I find out where I am, I can get the quickest route from point A to point B. Does not mean that drive is going to be fast, right? That journey is not necessarily going to be quick, but it's the quickest point from point A to point B than to be floundering and hoping that eventually I take the right turn and I'm there, right? And so this is why we this is why we do Dutch testing with all of our clients, because we want to see where are you right now so that we can get you to where you want to go, right? There's no guesswork. So with this, I know there was a ton of information, But the biggest things are we need to decrease the load of the liver. That is like step number one, through improving your digestion, improving your hydration, decreasing exposure, supporting your blood sugars, getting that sleep, managing your stress, making sure we're not over consuming medications, making sure we're not over consuming the BPAs, the plastics, not rewarming up food in plastic containers, simple things to decrease exposure. And again, the biggest one, you guys, is going to be limiting alcohol, which like if you want to drink alcohol, that is fine. That is up to you. But then you have to take responsibility for the consequences that come with that, which is going to be a body that is not as good at burning fat. So you have to decide what you want to do. I don't care what you do, but you have to be okay with what happens based on what you do, right? So again, if you have questions, please reach out. I know this is a lot, but we want to give you everything that we can. We do have a detoxification guide with like the food sources that you can be eating. Another podcast that is linked to it that talks about like some specifics in there as well. We have recipes with those detox ingredients as well. So if you want that, message me. I will send it over. I love you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.